Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first test episode of, what did I call it again? Science versus bullshit, I think, or just basically debunking things that you guys want me to debunk. So I've collected a load of questions, but if anyone is watching live, you can ask any questions live, and I will also try and get around to those. Hi, Alexandra. Yeah, so I'm going to test this out because I think it's better than an Instagram live, and that way people can get sent the recording afterwards, and it's a lot less stressful for me. And something always goes wrong on an Instagram live, and then I also have the recording. So yeah, we're going to test it out. So I had many an excellent suggestion of things to debunk when I asked you guys on Instagram. So I've collated some of them. I won't get through all of them today, but like I said, if this goes well and it's useful and I get good feedback on it, then I'll try and do it weekly. Yeah. Emma's about to get her sassy pants on. Yeah. I mean, they've very much been on the last week or so. I don't really know where that came from, but it's here. It might just be that I'm hormonal, and then next week I'll just go back to my normal self. Who knows? Or maybe it's here to stay. We don't know. Anyway, one thing I've been talking about a lot is collagen, and getting like a fair amount of kickback. People are very evangelical about their use of collagen, which, by the way, if you want to use collagen, I literally could not care less. Like, if you want to spend your money on that, that's fine. I just like people to spend their money on things knowing the research behind it or the lack of research behind it. And if you still want to do that and you still feel you get benefit from it, that is your choice. But one thing that has come up quite a lot is like, yeah, okay, so you've shown lack of evidence for benefits, especially to muscle. Whey is always going to be better for building muscle, but also skin elasticity and appearance, which is another reason that a lot of people take collagen. But a question I've been getting quite a lot on the back of that is, what about injury and joint health? And this is a quite an interesting use of collagen, and I think the only one that maybe has some potential. And I say some because there are some studies that show collagen has moderately improved joint pain. Now, this is normally in people with severe joint pain already, so like people with osteoarthritis. Probably not useful for someone who's not injured or experiencing joint pain. And on top of that, where I find, or what I think is probably the most interesting area of research, and I know one of the scientists who does a lot of research on this, is in injury recovery. But you need to do this in a certain way. So just supplementing collagen probably isn't going to work. And a lot of the studies that have shown a benefit have used exercise to stimulate collagen synthesis, right? So some of the protocols, I'm going to get one up because I won't remember off the top of my head. So this is from some of Keith Bard's work, who's done a lot of work on this. And actually, side note, used to work with my mum. So that's fun. Anyway, what they did in this study that did show some benefit to taking collagen in terms of like rehab and how quickly someone rehabs after injury was they had people take collagen peptides. So either in the form of, in fact, this study was in the form of gelatin. So they took 15 grams of collagen peptides in the form of gelatin every day. And the reason for this is that they wanted to increase collagen-specific amino acids, so the amino acids that you would get from breaking down collagen. And I explained this on a post yesterday, but when you break this down, it kind of seems quite obvious, but a lot of people think that when you take collagen, it will just go to collagen, so like your skin and connective tissue is largely made of collagen. So when you take collagen, then that must be beneficial. And like on a very logical level, that makes some kind of sense, right? But it's not really how it works. So when you consume collagen, it will be broken down into its amino acids. And then it could be rebuilt into collagen if your body decides that that's what it should do with those amino acids. So when you look at this study, what it's done differently than other studies is it's stimulating collagen synthesis by the exercise that you're doing while supplementing. And the time span matters on this, right? So they want people to take this gelatin supplement, or this is what they did in the study, that has shown to increase the amino acids within collagen in your bloodstream within about 4 hours. So I think in this study specifically, they took the collagen 60 minutes before they did their rehab or strength training session for the affected area. So say you had like, I don't know, your Achilles or something, you might be doing your rehab for your Achilles, but you would take gelatin 60 minutes before that. And also vitamin C, because that helps with the absorption of collagen. Now, you could take that as a supplement, or you could just eat an orange. Wouldn't really matter either way. And then it's the exercise that's really important, so that you're doing that rehab and you're loading that targeted area so that you're stimulating that joint or that tendon. And then that does seem to have some kind of benefit. But outside of that, is like the benefit is very small. So if you were just being like, oh, I'm injured, so I'm going to take this collagen, with no thought process behind the timing of it, or whether you were actually doing rehab exercise and stimulating the recovery there or not, like that's not going to have much benefit. And I don't actually know that many people are thinking this far through. So if you were taking it for rehab purposes or to speed up your recovery, I'd be thinking about the protocol that you're doing. And if anyone wants that protocol, like, it's not mine, by the way, this is Keith Barr's work. I think there are some other researchers studying this as well, but like it was definitely, most of this research came from his lab. Then I can send you the studies that they've done and you can kind of copy that. But aside from that, like I just don't think there's a huge place for collagen. And certainly most of these supplement companies aren't suggesting that you do anything like that. They're just like, buy our collagen. Quick question for anyone watching. Can you hear the insanely annoying drilling that's going on, or is that just me? Which is also probably why I'm shouting quite a lot. If you could let me know, that would be ideal, because I'm not sure I can like take that out of the audio afterwards. You can't? Oh, Mercedes can. No, you can't. Oh, right, Mercedes, how are you hearing that? But I'm glad that you can't hear that, because it's quite off-putting. Right, the next question that came up, this came up 3 times, is Simprove. And essentially, is it a scam? Is it legit? What are your thoughts on it? So for those of you who don't know, Simprove is a liquid probiotic that claims to improve your gut health. The evidence for probiotics is like very interesting, and it's not that it's not there, but it's strain specific, and the benefit will depend on the use or the condition that you're trying to treat, right? So there isn't really enough to say that just taking a probiotic would be necessarily a good thing for you, especially if you're already eating a variety of fruit and veg. There is some, but very limited, legitimate research on Simprove. I think there's one randomized control trial that they quote quite a lot, which is, to be fair enough, because it's hard to get these studies published. And it showed that there may be a slight reduction in IBS symptoms. So if you're someone who doesn't already have IBS symptoms, like, there's probably not much point taking it. I'm happy to have my mind changed on this when more research comes out, but at the moment, I don't think that there's enough research that I would be spending like about £80 a month. Like, a month supply is about £80. So maybe slightly cheaper if you subscribe to it every month, but it's quite a big expense for the amount of data that we have on it at the moment. Saying that, if you are someone who really struggles with IBS and this has helped you, absolutely keep taking this. But for anyone else, I'd be like, right, can we look at your diet and look at the fiber intake, look at how many plants and veg and fruit that you're getting in a week? Are you including fermented fruits, but are you including like fermented foods within your diet? They're all going to have like probably a much bigger impact and be beneficial in other ways to your diet, and probably a hell of a lot cheaper. So do I think it's a scam? No. Do I think it's overhyped? Yes, all supplements are. So that's certainly not like shade on them specifically. Do I think they have a big marketing budget? Yes. much like a lot of the supplements that you see hyped, like, athletic greens, it's not like the worst thing in the world. Nothing bad is going to happen to you if you take it, but it's certainly not as good as what like most big podcasts that are being sponsored by athletics greens are having you believe. And again, like if you were someone who's like, yeah, I take collagen, Simprove, and my greens drink, you're spending not far off like £150, and that's not including maybe you also take some vitamins here and there and maybe some protein powder, right? So you're looking at like £200 a month on supplements that probably aren't doing very much for you. I would just have like a bit of an audit and review what you're doing with your supplements, why you're taking them. Someone messaged me yesterday being like, oh, I saw that you put something on your story about electrolytes. Like I bought them the other day, but I'm not really sure what they're for or why I bought them. Guys, come on. Like, think about why you should be taking something before, like question that before you buy it. Don't just buy something because you've seen it or you've seen someone talk about it. Like, why are you taking it? That should be like the first thing that you think of. What's the benefit to me? Do I even need that benefit? Right? So if someone's coming to you and saying Simprove is going to potentially improve your IBS, and you're like, oh my God, amazing, that's great, but you don't have IBS, then you don't need to be taking it, So that might be something to consider. If you are struggling with IBS and like you've been to your doctor and the normal things aren't working, then it might be something that you would consider trying, because the cost of it might actually be worth it to you. To me, it's not, because touch wood, I don't struggle with IBS. So then why would I be taking something to treat that? Which is really the only thing that we know that there is any evidence that it could treat. Okay, thanks guys for telling me about the background noise. It has stopped, but it's one of those things that will just come back again. What else did we have here? Oh, okay. This one has come up a lot, and I think I know why, because I think someone was talking about it recently. Is it dangerous to take coffee on an empty stomach? And I wouldn't say it's dangerous. That would be a bit of a push. This is going to be a really boring answer, but if you find that you get quite jittery or you feel quite sick taking coffee on an empty stomach, or even, and I would go so far as to say this, like if you're someone who's always just woken up and had coffee on an empty stomach, try not doing that for a week and see how you feel. If you're like, oh, I miss it and I didn't have any negative side effects to it, great, continue. No need to change anything. If you feel better not doing that, then don't do it. I would be more worried about stomach acid than what most people are worried about, which is cortisol. So one of the reasons that people suggest not getting up and just drinking coffee is that cortisol would naturally rise in the morning. It's meant to do that. That's essentially what wakes you up. So if you're already at an elevated cortisol level and then you're consuming coffee, or more to the point, caffeine, which will increase your cortisol even more, then some people would think that that's a bad thing. In reality, when that's tested, there's not really negative side effects to that, out with just like anecdote. So there's nothing wrong with, it's not dangerous to have elevated cortisol levels in the morning and then have some caffeine. It's not a problem. And actually what you tend to find is that if you habitually do that, your cortisol response to the caffeine reduces. So you kind of become habituated to that anyway. But if you are someone who struggles a bit with maybe anxiety, or you feel quite jittery in the morning, or you just notice that like having that coffee at that time has a negative impact on you, then wait and have your caffeine later. Maybe have a decaf or something. Because often it's the ritual of sitting down and having a coffee or having something that you enjoy, or it's part of your morning routine, as opposed to the caffeine itself that you're looking for. So you might just want to test it out. Honestly, I would test it. Like all these things, like if the question is it inherently dangerous and should everyone avoid it? No, we don't have the data for that. But see yourself as your own experiment. And hey, if you do it for a week and you're like, yeah, I actually feel so much better doing this, then great. Like change what you're doing and see how you feel. But I think it's like overhyped how impactful that is. Everyone always refers to coffee. How about tea? Appreciate it's lower. Yeah, same principle. Like there's going to be even less of an impact of tea because the caffeine content is even lower. So yeah, it would be even less of a big deal. Another question is, can you lose fat by improving your gut health as opposed to dropping calories? Which again, I think has been promoted by the same person that has been talking about not drinking caffeine in the morning. And I would say, so someone sent me that reel the other day about said person talking about cutting out caffeine in the morning. It's probably the one I disagree with least. Like, if this person has got benefit from it, fine. Like, it's not going to do you any harm to push back your caffeine intake in the morning. And a lot of the time, people do feel better doing that. So, not a problem. Now, can simply improving your gut health mean that you lose fat? No, you would always need to be in a calorie deficit to lose fat. There is no supplement, there is no special gut health diet or meal plan or anything that is going to benefit losing fat, especially, and I think this was what was being suggested, especially targeting quote unquote belly fat. That will not happen. Where you store your fat is largely genetic. On top of that, you can see a slight shift with hormonal changes during menopause. But if anyone is telling you that they can spot reduce fat, or that a certain supplement will help you spot reduce fat, or that a certain diet protocol will help you spot reduce fat, i.e. choose where that fat is coming from, that is a lie. They are selling you a scam. So there's one like big red flag that you can you can like avoid anyone that's telling you to do that. There is no evidence that we can do that. Obviously, if there was, I would be sharing it with you all. Because I think sometimes I come across as quite skeptical. I'm like, I'm not. If there was a supplement I thought everyone should be taking, I'd absolutely be promoting it. But at the moment, we don't have that. Anything else to say on gut health? When it comes to fat loss, it's still going to be a calorie deficit. By changing your diet and improving the quality of it, you may find that your digestion improves. So you might have like less bloating, which might feel like something has changed there. But in terms of body fat loss, like you would still need to be in a calorie deficit. Non-coffee or Coke drinker. Yeah, Lorna, I wouldn't worry about tea. Jackie, thoughts on NMN? I have done a whole episode on this, and I did a big deep dive into it. And I can't lie. As soon as I finished that, it like went out of my mind. But I know that it's promoted, especially very heavily on TikTok. And when I did look into it, I was like, it's quite interesting. Like the research around it is really interesting, and for the like science head in me is like, this is really cool. But at the moment, we just don't have really any evidence in humans for the claims that it has. So, the reduction in or like slowing of aging in some ways, basically. So I will send you afterwards that episode. If you just shoot me a message on Instagram to remind me at ESG Fitness, you will find me there, and I will send you it because I did do like a proper deep dive and I looked at all the research. But as soon as sometimes things just go out of my head, and for some reason that specifically, I was just like, I've completely forgotten everything that I read up on that. Here we go. I listened to it recently. It seemed like it should work, but no research to prove. I don't think I'd go that far. Like I don't spend my money on it. And if there was something that I thought was going to be helpful anti-aging wise, like I absolutely would. I think it's a little bit too soon to say. And I was sort of in two minds about it, because if it does actually work in the ways that it says it's going to work, that would kind of scare me as well, because of the links to the changes in cell and cell division, and actually that when you're doing things that implement cell division, like that gets scarily close to impacting your risk of cancer. So I'm still not convinced on it. It's not something that I would personally take. Thank you so much for the link there. Oh, hey, Diane. I hope you're having a good time in Australia. And yeah, I will post it afterwards, don't worry. Right, any questions from you guys here live? Fire away. I have a few more here. In fact, I've got loads here. Okay, let's see. Are certain oils bad for you? Yes, but most are in such small amounts that it probably doesn't matter. There seems to be quite a big push at the moment to like more quote unquote like natural oils, which actually often are worse, or like replacing certain oils with things like butter, which for your heart health is we have strong research is going to be worse. So unsaturated oils like olive oil, sunflower oil, they're linked to better heart health long term. Generally, things like trans fats are really harmful, but in the UK, you're not allowed to add them to foods anyway. So we wouldn't be getting any trans fats in anything in the UK, ideally, hopefully. A lot of people cook with coconut oil. I would be quite sparing with that because it's a saturated fat, despite what Joe Wicks says, although I don't think he said that for quite a long time. But he used to kind of suggest cooking everything in loads and loads of olive oil. Sorry, not olive oil, coconut oil. But I would, yeah, with all of these things, like anything that's really high in fat, like oils, I would try and be quite sparing with it, mostly because it's just going to ramp up calories massively. Question here: artificial sweeteners / diet Coke, etc. Thoughts? In again, like the poisons in the dose, so in moderation, absolutely fine. There was a bit of I don't know if fear is the right word, but a lot of people will claim that artificial sweeteners will like wreck your gut microbiome or have like a negative impact on your gut microbiome. Most of that research has been done in like rodent models, and there's really not any strong evidence that would have a big impact in human gut microbiome. The other thing about the gut microbiome that is really interesting but somewhat confusing is that everything changes it. So if you're saying like, oh, the sweeteners in Diet Coke change your gut microbiome, and there's the assumption that it's actually a change that is negative, which we actually don't know. And then there's also the reality that like breathing also changes your gut microbiome. Like literally everything you do does. So sometimes I think you can kind of overthink these things. And I quite like sweeteners in moderation. If you're someone who has a really sweet tooth, or you're trying to diet, and actually having a Diet Coke every now and again really helps with your ability to stick to your diet, or you're someone who is trying to drink less alcohol, but then you can go out and you can have a Diet Coke instead. Like I really wouldn't be overthinking it. If you're someone who, and I've had clients who are like, no, I'm really into Diet Coke, like really into it. I have like cans and cans and cans a day. Then I would think about weaning yourself off that. But if you're like, yeah, I have a few cans a week, or if I'm going out for drinks with my mates and I'm not drinking, like I'll have a Diet Coke, fine. One thing I will say, and I've been caught out on this before because I don't drink, people will always get rounds. And I swear one night I was like lying in bed and I was like, why am I so awake? And then you forget how much caffeine is in Diet Coke. And I was just lying there like really awake. And then I realized I'd had like 5 Diet Cokes because everyone will just keep buying you them. So, but maybe change to water after like the first round or something. I wouldn't like overdo them, but yeah, I also wouldn't be stressing about them at all. And same with sweeteners, like in moderation, not a bad thing. Yeah. Okay, next one. Electrolytes. I see them promoted everywhere. Do we need them? Sorry for that dramatic pause. When there's no one else on the call with me, I don't have time to drink. Do we need electrolytes? The vast majority of people don't need them. again, they're really heavily promoted. They're very cheap to make, which makes the markup on them great if you're a supplement company, and probably means that you can do a lot on ad spend and marketing spend and getting, paying people on podcasts to promote them all the time, or paying influencers, which is why we see them all the time, right? But for the vast majority of people, unless you're doing a lot of exercise and like more cardio based exercise where you're sweating a lot, you really, really don't need them. And most people will be getting more than enough, even if you're like, oh yeah, but I go to gym, 5 times a week or something, and I do sweat while I'm there, and like, should I be taking electrolytes? No, but if you're just eating like a normal healthy diet outside of that, you will get enough potassium and sodium from your diet. And normally what's in them is potassium, sodium, and a little bit of magnesium. I've often looked at the cover as well, and I can't tell the type of magnesium. Normally when people don't say what type of magnesium is in something, it means that it's magnesium oxide, which is the cheapest type of magnesium and is very poorly absorbed. So you're probably like, let's just take off the magnesium because you're probably not actually getting anything from that. But you'll have some potassium and some sodium. Now, you're probably more than likely getting enough salt from your diet. If anything, the vast majority of people in the UK are already getting too much salt from their diet, so you probably don't need any more of that. Potassium, again, most people get more than enough from their diet. If you're worried about that, I would probably be, having another banana a day or something as opposed to supplementing. But if you're someone who sweats a lot or is doing like long endurance type exercise, yes, this would be a good thing. The only other time when I ever think about taking electrolytes is like if I've had a really bad migraine and I've been sick, like then again, you can have like loss of electrolytes, and then supplementing it afterwards might be a good idea. But for most people, your body is very, very good at staying in what's called a homeostatic range, and it will, pee out excess things that it doesn't need, and it will maintain like a very tight balance of the electrolytes that it needs within your body. The main time that gets disrupted is if someone is, say, for example, doing a marathon today in London at 32 degrees, dripping with sweat and only consuming water, because what they're losing is electrolytes and what they're replenishing is just water. And then what can happen is hyponatremia, where you have an electrolyte imbalance. And that actually can be fatal. It can be really, really dangerous. Now, on the other side of this, and for most people, this is quite unlikely. But on the other side of this, like if you over supplement with electrolytes and you have too much, especially potassium, you can start like negatively impacting your heart as well. So if you're someone who's like drinking them like squash or something, like I had a client who was just like, yeah, they just taste really nice, I have a few like sachets a day, and I'm like, no, probably you need to get some Ribena, babe. Like, probably shouldn't be doing that. Okay, Natalie, how can we switch off from all the noise around ultra processed foods or toxins in the beauty/cleaning products? As someone at high risk of cancer, it's really making me go on a big guilt trip, i.e., I feel like it's all turned into blame culture, e.g., if you get sick, it's your own fault. I hate that for you, and I'm so sorry that you feel like that, because that is absolutely not the case. I know deep down it's all about balanced eating and exercise, but there's so much information out there to try and make us feel like we've got it all wrong. You're absolutely right. And I think one of my most hated forms of misinformation is anything around cancer, because again, it does just kind of make people feel like there's something more they could have done, or it is their fault, or it's criminal what some people are saying, especially around now, like sun cream, and some people being really negative about sun cream and that actually it's worse for you than the sun. And someone commented on my post the other day being like, actually, like, sun cream is bad because then you don't absorb vitamin D. That's not true, by the way. Like, sun cream will not completely stop you absorbing vitamin D. Like, you might absorb slightly less, but you're absolutely still able to absorb vitamin D. That if you're not applying sun cream because you're worried about not absorbing vitamin D, please stop doing that. Sorry, the question was all the noise around ultra processed foods. I think one thing that somewhat helps people take the pressure off with ultra processed foods is the definition is so vague. Like there is no real definition of ultra processed foods. And when you look at the huge umbrella of foods that are classified as ultra processed, you might have something like a high protein yogurt, which might be, really actually beneficial to your goals and your body composition. And then you might have something like a donut, which probably isn't going to be. And yet they are both ultra processed foods, or you might have like a Mars bar in there. Now, even common sense would tell you like which one's going to be better for me and what should I be worried about, whether it's ultra processed or not. And I do agree with like trying to eat more whole foods and less ultra processed foods, but to try and cut them all out or to paint them all with the same brush and like demonize them or suggest that they're, massively increasing your risk of cancer in small doses, then that's a really toxic, negative, and just untrue and unfounded narrative to have. I know less about the beauty and cleaning products, I'm not going to lie, but if you want to send me like any links or anything, I'm more than happy to have a look at that and hopefully ease your mind a little bit. I think especially with cleaning. Do you know one thing that does freak me out though? So I just interrupted myself there. Anyone else who lives in London, the water here is disgusting. Like, I think I've been blessed with Scottish water, but it's like, I don't quite understand. I guess it's like the lime scale, right? But every week I'll clean my kettle and it will have like, not just lime scale, but like hard lime scale, like to the point that it like chips off. And then I think, is that inside me? Like, is that like what my insides are like? And even the quality of like your hair, because you wash your hair in this water. I don't know. I do realize I do have a filter on one of my taps, but it's quite bad. That stuff I worry about because it's like slow. You would never notice it. It's just like this slow, I don't know, lime scale building inside your body. Now that's an exaggeration. That is almost definitely not happening, but that's one thing I do worry about is like the water quality in London. I totally hear the issue with all the noise, etc. The way I deal with it is to not look. I only look at the things that make me feel good. I shut out and block everything else so I can't see it. Yeah, so what I'd highly recommend is just unfollow everyone else in the fitness industry. No, I'm joking. Not everyone else. There are some absolutely incredible accounts and incredible coaches and people sharing amazing information. But if you consistently notice someone sharing like fear-mongering information, trying to promote supplements, making you feel like crap. I shared some awful menopause woman who was like basically blaming people for going through the menopause the other day. Things like that. Like if you see that, unfollow it. Like don't have that on your feed. Now, it's one thing to like have a difference of opinion from someone. Like, I don't know, if you're someone who really likes collagen and then you see that I have like debunked it a bit, I mean, for sure, unfollow me if you want to unfollow me. But like, I wouldn't unfollow for that reason. But if I was like trying to sell you all this stuff all the time, or I was scaring you around this, or this, or I was like shaming you for going through the menopause or something, like, yes, unfollow me. Please, if I ever do that, unfollow me. I feel that as a menopausal woman, we are told to lift heavy. Sorry, we are told we have to lift heavy. I enjoy workouts with dumbbells and body weight with some cardio. Is this enough? I'm using 3 to 15 kilogram weights, but feel shame for not deadlifting 100 kilograms. Thank you so much. We need to take this feeling of shame out. Like, look, Janice, you're lifting weights. You are already so far above average as a menopausal woman. Like most people your age aren't even doing that stuff, right? So 1, give yourself some credit for just doing that. 2, any exercise that you enjoy is incredible. So don't stop those bodyweight workouts if you like them. Don't stop the cardio if you enjoy it. Don't stop the like lighter weights if you enjoy them as well. Would you benefit from lifting heavier? Potentially. Like 15 kilograms is fairly heavy. You certainly don't need to be deadlifting 100 kilograms. I'm certainly not doing that with my own back issues and things, and it's just not appropriate for everybody. But would optimizing muscle growth as you age be a benefit? Yes, like you want to build as much muscle as possible. Now, with 3 to 15 kilogram weights, like you're probably like a lot of the way there, but you maybe could like kind of optimize that a little bit if you wanted to. but certainly don't feel shame about it. Like, you should be really proud of everything that you're doing so far. And then if you're like, yeah, okay, maybe I'll do like 1 or 2 sessions a week where I do lift a little bit heavier, that would be great. But yeah, don't feel bad because you see someone on Instagram doing 100-kilogram deadlifts or something. It's whatever feels heavy for you, I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. If you're looking at how to optimize hypertrophy, 100 kilograms for some people for a deadlift is really light. I know that's even probably makes you feel even better, but for other people it's way too heavy, right? So really what you're thinking about is, am I pushing myself? Am I stressing myself? If you're finding that all your weights are pretty easy and you're not ever reaching failure, then you're probably leaving quite a lot on the table that you could be seeing as like muscle building benefit. But if you're like, no, I really push myself and these are heavy for me, great. And this kind of translates, I get a lot of questions about specifically whether Pilates will help you build muscle. And the truth is, if you're starting from a very low strength, then yeah, it will. Like, if you're basically inactive and then you start doing Pilates, guess what? You'll build muscle. But you'll very quickly reach a ceiling from that stimulus. So this is one reason that lifting weights is useful, because when you reach that ceiling from that stimulus, you can increase the weight, right? So then you're pushing yourself a little bit more. This is a really simple way of saying progressive overload. So if I went into the gym and I did, I don't know, 3 sets of chest press at 10 kilograms, and I just continued to do that forever, I would stop getting stronger because my body would get used to that. At some point, I need to be like, okay, I can do 3 sets of 10 at 10 kilograms. I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 at 12 kilograms. And then I'm going to start moving that up as I get stronger. That's progressive overload. That's a very simple way of thinking about progressive overload. You always want to be pushing yourself and pushing your muscles, because all exercise is a stimulus. So if you no longer have a stimulus that's really stressing your body, then your body doesn't need to adapt to that stress because it's really easy. So you're not really your cardiovascular system, for example, isn't going to adapt to walking because it's very easy for it to deal with walking. When you start running, you're putting a stress on your body. And then afterwards, your body's like, wow, what if we're stressed with that again? We better adapt so that the next time that your body's under that stress, it can perform better. And that's essentially a very simple way of explaining like how you get fitter, how you get stronger, how you get faster. It's the stress on your body as a stimulus and then your body adapting to that stress. Right, I'm going to wrap up today here. Please do shoot me a message with any feedback that you have on this. As I said, if it's popular, I'll do it again. If it's not, then hey, this was fun. It was a bit of a one-off. And if you have any more questions or topics that you want me to cover, fire them to me and I will add them to the list, because I still have probably about 7 or 8 from the list or from the question box on Instagram. All right, have lovely days, everyone. Bye.